You awaken to the grating sound of buzzing fluorescent lights and the rancid stench of soggy carpet. A barren, sprawling maze stretches before you, insidiously yellow, frustratingly random. You blink. The halls have changed their positions, still clinging to their vacant stillness. Tread carefully, wanderer. This place is just as much as a grave as it is a threshold. Survival difficulty, Class 1. Safe, secure, unconfirmed entities. Often nicknamed the Yellow Hell, Level 0 presents itself as a labyrinth resembling the backrooms commonly found in offices or retail outlets. It has earned its moniker from the sickly color of the wallpaper and mildew-ridden carpets that decorate the level. Those unlucky enough to slip through the soft creases of reality might find themselves lost in the aberrant passages of Level 0. This is the first level of the backrooms, and often the last for those who find their way in. Many are caught unprepared as they stumble through mile after mile of randomly segmented rooms, hallways, and stairs, each as grueling as the last. This becomes a torturous endeavor, considering the mind-numbing monotony of the journey. Infinity is incomprehensible to the human mind, and yet it encapsulates every aspect of Level 0, from the variations in its architecture to its sprawling size. It feeds into its shattering emptiness, infecting the mind with Malgarian delirium, which slowly consumes one to their very core. The dark echoes of liminality grip in one's heart, feeling the madness. Those who enter become wanderers, trapped in a sea of isolation and paranoia, their lives often cut short by dehydration or starvation. Level 0 is a labyrinthine in nature. Traversal can be a challenging endeavor due to the massive expansiveness of the level and the fact that the maze will shift and change as one progresses. The longer one spends amongst its haphazardly arranged halls, the more likely one is to encounter its anomalies in the architecture. There is no surefire way to escape these haunting corridors. Perseverance is one's best chance to make it out alive. There's a plentiful amount of noise permeating Level 0 at all times. The major source of this is the buzzing lights, the volume of which can fluctuate severely and randomly. At times, the noise becomes loud enough to cause hearing damage, if exposure is prolonged. During these spikes, wanderers should cover their ears and keep moving to escape the sound. Wanderers have reported other anomalous sounds, such as indistinct whispering and familiar voices calling out to them. One may also hear scratching sounds from behind the walls, as if something is sharpening its nails. The sounds can follow one down long hallways, but there have been no reports of anything causing it. One is advised to ignore it and move along. Whether or not these audible abnormalities are a result of hallucinations or an undiscovered phenomenon is unknown. Almost the entirety of the floors within Level 0 are covered by a tight-knit Berber-style carpeting. Though appearing yellow in photographs, likely due to the harsh lighting, the color is closer to brownish beige when viewed in isolation. The fibers of the carpets are composed of an unknown synthetic material and feel somewhat abrasive despite the persistent moisture. Although changing texture and shading slightly throughout the vast level, the flooring is seamless, consisting of a continuous piece of carpet. Little is known about the origin of the fluids inundating the carpets of Level 0. Samples have demonstrated a wide variety of liquids such as salt water, brackish water, almond water, liquid pain, vermilion, and even slurries containing human and non-human DNA. Notably, the carpets are not edible, and the almond water is tainted, so it is advised to not bother with consuming chunks of the floor, even in desperation. A phenomenon aptly named the isolation effect has been observed by those trapped in Level 0. Even if two individuals enter Level 0 side by side, they will never be able to find one another. All attempts to communicate, be it shouting, leaving notes, marking paths, or damaging the walls, will be met with failure. The level is truly an obstacle one must face alone. This effect is persistent throughout the level, which can be extremely psychologically taxing as wanderers press on. There is one exception, a small room in which people can see one another, but the ever-changing layout of Level 0 makes encountering the room highly improbable. Despite the all-encompassing mundanity of Level 0, there exists a myriad of variations in its architecture. While this is not an exhaustive list, these are the most common structural abnormalities. The first notable differentiation is pale walls with archway holes decorating them. While not particularly notable beyond its aesthetics, they generally show up in dead ends or adorned transition rooms. Carpet depth is notably extensive in these sections, making traversal potentially more challenging depending on exhaustion and how much fluid is trapped in the carpet. Some archways can be just wide enough for a small person to rest on, if only briefly enough to grant a reprieve from the wet floors. Archway rooms are the most stable. They tend not to shift or change behind you, which can help wanderers orient themselves.
It felt like I had walked for days. Maybe I had. It's hard to say. There's so much damn sameness. After a while, it all just blends together in one big yellow blur. All I know is my feet ached more than I thought possible, and those arches were the first and only respite I had before I eventually tumbled into level 1. My feet were swollen, I was dehydrated, and I had a sinus infection that wouldn't quit for weeks. But I survived, for whatever that's worth.
Occasionally, one will come across a massive pillar room. They can sometimes stretch for miles and will always appear in a lattice or grid pattern. While generally easy to explore, they can be extremely tedious due to their size. Carpets tend to be shallower in these sections, potentially making them inviting for sleep, as there is less moisture on the floor. Many have reported that while exploring pillar rooms, the paths behind them will shift often, leading to asymmetrically placed pillars and potentially confusing pathways. It is recommended that wanderers select a heading and commit to following it.
It was my third time in 0, probably my longest too. I was as prepared as you can be, all things considered, but it's hard to prep for a place like that. On day 2, I wandered into a pillar room, what looked like endless rows of perfectly spaced columns. It took me 14 days to find a way out. You can remember the tricks they teach us for them. Sleep facing the direction you're traveling, use your left hand as a guide, but none of that can prepare you for a room that fucking big. Thank God for almond water. It's hard to imagine trying to survive there without it.
As one explores, they may come across pits that lead deep into the floor. They tend to be pitch black, and light generally cannot penetrate more than a few feet into darkness. Like the pillars, they appear in close groups and form in a grid pattern, which usually makes them simple to bypass. Some hole clusters can be large or clumped densely, making falling in an enormous risk. It is unknown what happens to wanderers after falling in. However, none have reported doing so and surviving. If extremely fatigued or dehydrated, one should avoid pit sections entirely, as they can become even more dangerous.
I don't think the holes led anywhere. Folks try to find meaning in stuff, they hear voices, feel a pull, see a blue light, all kinds of stories. But that's just our minds trying to find meaning in the meaningless, forcing logic onto something illogical. You learn quickly that things here in the back rooms, they don't always make sense. There's rarely logic or meaning. It exists beyond those concepts.
The blackout zones are entire sections of level 0, devoid of lighting. These sections are extremely hard to traverse as they constantly shift behind the low visibility. Once inside, it can be extremely difficult to escape as one can get lost in the darkness. Survivors of the blackout zones have detailed rough textures on the walls and an intense silence with the absence of buzzing lights. The floors here may be recessed, often filling with ankle-deep fluid. If entered, sprint towards the first glimmer of light, or attempt to follow any buzzing sounds until an exit is located.
As grating as they are, those damn lights, you almost miss them when they're gone. You can try and follow the buzzing, but the problem is the sound doesn't stay in one place. Sometimes it feels like you're getting closer, and suddenly it's behind you again.
The configuration of level 0 is an ever-changing patchwork of architectural absurdity, worsened by an effect known as the preemptoral shift. Whether it not directly observed, the layout of the level can warp, stretch, or rearrange itself, sometimes entirely altering days of traveled hallways. This is extremely disorienting and, more importantly, disheartening to new wanderers and seasoned explorers alike. The effect is not constant, and there are areas where it is less likely to occur, though this only compounds the perplexity of the Yellow Hell.
I remember I spent what had to be 2 days mapping a stretch of halls. I thought I was real clever. I marked corners, counted the lights, and tried to keep some kind of reference. When I finally stopped to rest and looked back the way I came, the hallway was completely different. 2 days walking, gone in a blink. You can walk for minutes, hours, and maybe days, but the second you look away, the level decides those steps never happened. That's a lot to take in when you first get here. The lack of continuity. I assume it's too much for some people. It almost was for me.
It is unknown whether or not the entities exist in Level 0. If they do, they are likely subjected to the isolation effect. While none have been directly reported, wanderers have claimed to see dark figures stalking them between corridors and experiencing scophobia as they wander the yellow hell. Entrances and exits. Falling out of reality is the most frequent way of entering Level 0, though there are many entrances hidden away throughout the greater hold the Backrooms. Survive long enough to find a flickering wall to throw yourself through. This will lead you to Level 1 and to the fragments of humanity still inhabiting this world. Almost every wanderer remembers the moment they realize the halls never end, the buzzing never falters, and the rules of the world they came from no longer apply. Level 0 is not the worst place in the Backrooms, it's just the first. Despite how it may seem, there are countless more terrible places you can, and likely will, find yourself in. If you've made it this far, you've already crossed the threshold. Welcome to the Backrooms. So that was Level 0. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any feedback, please reply to the pinned comment in the comment section down below. Before I cover most of the levels, I'm going to be covering the main groups, objects, entities, and sub-levels to levels in future videos. So stay tuned for that. I hope you guys enjoyed, and safe travels. I'll see you guys next time.